groups of houses creatures all self-terrorize your neighborhood. And whosoever shall be found without the
break. Try and sort this one out. Let's talk about fish, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be. Let's talk about fish. Let's talk about fish, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that can be. Let's talk about fish. Fish. Let's talk about fish. Let's talk about fish. Instrumental break. Let's talk about fish, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be. Let's talk about fish. Let's talk about fish. 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 Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be. Let's talk about fish. Let's talk about fish. Fish.
All right. Good morning, all. How are you, Cassie?
Good morning. I'm doing good. How are you?
Mary is sick this morning.
I know she told me she's lurking, though.
Yeah, she's here hanging out. She's trying to get a hold of her doctor, figure out what's going on with her body. Having digestive issues, I guess. Mercy. Well, here we are. It's been a really interesting chat so far this morning. A lot of people bringing up issues about plants. It's really interesting. I wonder how many of the people who are having trouble with plants have dirt and deep substrates. That would be good to know. There were a couple of people. Aquatic Conquest was talking about plant issues. Who else was?
Well, it seemed like Tyson brought it up, and Aquatic Conquest was helping her.
Kyson, yeah, right. Yeah, Kyson was talking about it.
I was trying to go back to the original comment, but I couldn't find it. She says she has 3 big anubias that are thriving, and the new little ones are the ones that are struggling. They're the Nana Bonsai ones. And if I was reading correctly, she's had all her plants were grown immersed and they're melting. And she's also using CO2 in there.
She is, or she was talking about using it?
I think she is using CO2. Like 200 parts per million was her comment.
Yeah, I don't use CO2. I've tried it in the past. I don't like it. I would rather do.
Needs it.
Yeah, I would rather do a nutritious substrate with a lot of nutrition in it. Give the plant a chance to grow normally. You can melt plants with CO2. I mean, you can overdo it, and it'll kill them. So it also dramatically affects pH, and change in pH. Dramatic change in pH will also kill plants. So, unless you're very carefully applying it and are able to maintain the pH with a lot of stability, you're probably going to run in trouble doing it. I just think it's not worth the trouble, mainly because even if it works, and you continue to use it, you're going to wind up with leggy plants that will because you have to keep trimming them, that will become unsightly in time. I don't know anybody with that CO2 system who's been able to maintain it for more than a year. That's kind of SOP for CO2. If you're having trouble with plants, you either have a pH problem or a nutrition problem. Plants grow best in hard alkaline water. Most of the plants that are in the hobby are semi-brackish plants. Not all of them. Use is not. The the non-rooted plants are not. Well, the Java ferns and the Nubius and so forth. Nor are the Aponogetans. But most of the bunch plants are brackish to semi-brackish in their native habitat. So they want hard alkaline water, and they want a very rich substrate. That's what they grow in the wild. That's their natural environment. That's what they're conditioned to. So doing a deep substrate provides that. It also helps if you do the additives that I recommend. It also helps to keep the pH up and stable. Those are really the keys to growing plants. I do not melt plants in my systems. It simply doesn't happen. I do have times when the lights go out and for extended periods of time, and the plant or the duckweed takes over, and the plants will stop growing very well and may dwindle because the surface is being covered with duckweed or salvini or something else that's preventing adequate light from getting through, or there may simply be inadequate light. Those certainly are causes for plants to not thrive. But if you keep the duckweed out and keep light on it, and put enough plants in there that you're not getting algae growth. Generally speaking, if you're getting algae growth, it's because you don't have enough plants. There's more nutrition, in other words, than the existing plants need, and that excess nutrition is taken up by algae. It may even get it first, but it gets it. So the more plants you have, the less algae you're going to have. Don't be afraid to load your tank up with plants. Don't be afraid to do it. So long as you're providing adequate nutrition in the form of a deep substrate with nutrition in the substrate, not by pouring liquid fertilizer in. Pouring liquid fertilizer in is another form of Russian roulette. You know, you have no way to control it or monitor it. You don't ever know what's in there. You know, you can do, oh, I only do one capful a week. Well, that's fine. How much of that one capful is being used? Well, the plants are growing. Well, yeah. How much of that capful is being used? Well, the plants are growing really well, and I'm not having any trouble. Well, how much of that capful is being used? And there's no way to know. If only half of it is being used, for example, then you're increasing essentially the toxicity of the water by a half a capful of very strong chemicals every single week, or however often you dose. And that'll reach a point where things will begin to suffer. You'll see it first in fish struggling. It will tend to drive the GH up pretty high. You can track it that way, sort of. Um, it's a crapshoot. It's not worth the risk to your tank long term of doing something that you really don't have any control over. You want to be able to maintain a system that is balanced, that is not going to go to extremes, that's not going to have additives put in it on a continuing basis that are going to wind up eventually polluting it. You do water changes. Oh, well, that's fine. Water changes are good. That reduces by half whatever you have in there. And if you're continuing to add it, then by the time you do another water change, you're at about 1.25. You do another one, you're at about 1.37. So it continues to increase in spite of doing water changes. If you're doing additives on a routine basis, then you're creating a condition which ultimately must crash. It, oh, excuse me. It ultimately cannot survive. You're creating imbalance. You're putting something that's trying to get itself balanced, and you're putting stuff in it that's throwing it out of whack, throwing it off balance. Oh dear. I think of Roxanne's song "Let It Be." You know, you need to do the best job you can setting up your tank, and then let it work itself out. It seeks equilibrium. All living things seek equilibrium. They seek to balance. They seek to achieve stability. You need to allow that to happen and not keep doing things to throw it out of balance, to change the stability. Yes, Cassie.
Alexander Lee just replied to what you were saying, but I'm not sure what he means. He says, you're exactly right, Father Fish. That's why the overdosing method is great. And then reset with a 50% water change weekly. So I don't quite get that comment. Do you?
No. No, he's
Seems opposite what you were just saying, so that's why
I see his comment. That's why that overdosing method is great, and then reset with a 50% water change weekly. Yeah, I don't understand what you mean either, Alexander Lee. Well, if you do, let me break it down. Let's say you're changing the pH. Let's use this. You're changing the pH. Your water coming out of your tap is 8.0, and you want it to be 7.0. Okay? So you put chemicals in to reduce it to 7.0. And then you do a water change that increases it to 7.5. You add more chemicals that reduces it down below 7.0 to like 6.5. Do a water to 50% water change. Now, the difference between 6.5 and 8.0 is 1.5, half of which is 0.75. So you now have got it up to 1.75. 1.75. So it increases. It steadily increases. If you're adding chemicals to your water, you are changing the condition of the water.
Are you
Take
including
about,
CO2 in that, Father
pardon,
Fish? Are you
what?
including CO2 as part of the discussion?
CO2?
Yeah, does that include it? You're talking about chemicals and CO2?
No, I'm not including CO2. I'm not thinking about CO2. It,
Okay. I just didn't know if it applied as well to
well, it
that.
may. I haven't thought about it. It may. What I'm talking about is adding chemicals. If you're adding chemicals to your tank on a routine basis, then you are routinely shocking the tank. You're routinely throwing the tank out of balance. It's seeking to achieve a balance given its current condition. It tries to balance all of the factors in that so that you've got a flow of life going through of the entire biological network. You then throw some chemicals in. That changes the balance. It changes the condition of the water and the condition of not just the water, but the substrate as well, of the fish, of the plants, of everything. It dramatically affects everything in the tank. It doesn't just provide some food for plants. It provides a change in the stability of the system that affects everything in the system. And once you do that, you have no way of knowing what it's doing. You think, well, maybe I can watch the plants, and if the plants are not growing well, I'll throw some more in. And that might work for a while, but again, you're throwing the system out of balance in order to try to get one aspect to do something beyond what it naturally is doing. If your plants are not thriving, look at the way the system is set up and control things you can control without changing it all. Control things like light, control things like pH, do water changes, make sure that the tank is consistent with your water source. You don't want to be throwing chemicals in to change the pH either, because you can't maintain that balance. Not long term. You might do it this week, next week, the following week. You might do it for 3 months in a row. You might do it for 3 years in a row. But at some point, you're going to mess up and it's going to fail, and the whole house of cards you built is going to come crashing down on you. In other words, stop trying to make your tank dependent on you throwing things at it all the time. Give it a chance to catch its breath. Give it a chance to be a living system, and it will reward you greatly. But you've got to start with the foundation for a living system. You don't take a baby out of the room and put it in a cage and leave it alone and come back in 15 years and expect to have a you know decent human being. It ain't gonna happen. You've got to give it a place, a place to live, a way to be able to thrive. That's gonna allow it to grow and to thrive. And that doesn't mean constantly adding things to your chemical things to your water. Yes, Cassie.
But when you're done, I just wanted to update you on Kaizen.
Yeah, go ahead.
She was saying that her water has a pH of 7.5, and she has a 2-layer substrate. The bottom one is iron enriched, that she enriched herself. She says not with dirt. There's a 2-inch layer of sand. She has her light with a 2-hour rest in the middle of the day. And she recently changed it to 6 hours per day with a 3-hour rest and 125 watts. So that's
Okay,
just
the purpose of the rest typically is a short-term fix to stop the growth of algae. The problem with that system is that it also stops the growth of plants. It breaks the cycle of plant growth. So I would stop doing that, number one. You know, the break, if you have, the break has been recommended for tanks that have a problem with algae. Now, I don't think really that it's a legitimate fix, because if you've got a lot of algae, it simply means that you have more nutrition than the available plants can use. So you increase plants or reduce nutrition. Typically, increase plants. You can reduce, I would reduce like first at either end of the cycle, reduce it from 10 hours to 8 hours, 8 hours to 6 hours, but putting a break in the middle stops the plant growth. It stops the natural 24-hour cycle of plant growth. So you're going to wind up with very mixed up plants that are not going to know quite what to do, because the day has suddenly gone from a 24-hour day to or two 12-hour cycles to 4 6-hour cycles or something, or 2 6-hour cycles and 2, I don't know what, 2 3-hour cycles and 1 18-hour cycle. That's what that creates. So it's, it creates confusion for the plants. They're very simple creatures. They really don't understand a whole lot um, about science. You know, they they're used to the same thing happening pretty routinely on a regular daily basis, the way it has since God created them, however many decades ago that was. So try not doing that break and see if that makes a difference. As to your substrate, iron is helpful. Iron is a critical element for plant growth. There are others. Um, if as your tank ages, it will develop uh, um, more detritus. The substrate will become richer and will be able to provide more elements, more nutrition than it does at an earlier stage. Just give it time. If you're setting up a tank without enriching the substrate, then it's going to take you 6 months to get to the place where plants are going to begin to grow. It's not going to happen routinely. They can't grow on nothing. They can't grow on the air. And if you start throwing chemicals in there, like liquid chemicals, to try to fertilize stuff, you're just creating a worse problem than you started with. Give it time, feed your fish sparingly at best, let it develop, start slowly with the plants. As they take hold, you can begin adding a little more. If you get some algae, add a little more plant. Just kind of go slow and gradual with it, and you'll make it. The benefit of a dirted, deep substrate is that you can load it up with plants day one and stand a pretty good chance of them making it. Now, as I've said before, you don't want to stick the roots down in the dirt because it's brand new and it's still kind of bubbling it's still trying to turn into stew. It's still a bunch of ingredients that are essentially at war with each other. It's got to calm down, settle down, and become a healthy uh, uh, a healthy layer and not a layer that's disruptive and at war with itself. But give it a little time. Put the plant roots in the sand. Let them get down in there and find the nutrition. It'll work. Just take time and be gentle. Go slow. You'll be fine. Yes, Cassie.
I had a question about doing like the immersed plants in your tank. Does the same advice apply to the immersed plants if you're adding a
Yeah,
bunch?
it really does. You know,
It does. If they're all dying back, would we want to like put a whole bunch of lighting on there if they're just melting?
the key is not whether or not they're dying back, it's whether or not there's new growth. If there's new growth, then you can clip off the old roots and the old leaves and support that new growth. Let that come up. Uh, Amazon swords will do that. They'll they'll because a lot of Amazon swords are grown immersed, not immersed. They're grown out of water. You put them in water, and it's a different leaf structure. It's used to feeding in a different way. What the plant will do is it'll send up a bunch of new leaves that'll be essentially aquatic leaves. When you see that happening, you know the plant is uh, is struggling for life, is growing in a new environment, and so you begin to clip off the old plants that are dying back, that are so-called melting, and just give it a chance to replace itself. You want to try to get plants that are not grown immersed. I don't buy immersed plants. I buy immersed or plants that are grown out in water. So you don't run into that problem. It does not occur with bunch plants. It only occurs, it does not occur with Vallisneria. About the only plants that really are grown immersed are sword plants. Trying to think of others that are. Um,
What about Anubias? She was specifically asking about
Anubias is, no, Anubias is not grown immersed. You leave it out. You leave it out of the water and it'll dry out.
Yeah, I didn't think that was one that could be grown out of the water. That seems like a purely aquatic plant.
Yeah, it's kind of, you cannot apply that to that condition to all plants or even very many. Bunch plants, you should always start with a lot of bunch plants. Start your tank with bunch plants. Start with Anubias, Kabamba, guppy grass, stuff that's going to grow well. Vallisneria. Vallisneria always grows well. You get corkscrew, you get jungle val, you got that new, what is that stuff called? The twisty, long twisty val. It's real pretty. Those all grow well. They do well. They rarely will melt back. And none of them are grown immersed. All of them are grown in water. So you're not going to have that problem with them. You want to start with plants that do well. Don't start with buse, for God's sake. Start with something that you've got half a chance of being able to keep alive, not something that's so exotic that the best agriculturalists in the industry struggle with. You're not. It takes time to become a genius. You don't get there by day 3 or 4. It takes at least a week.
Wisteria and Nicholas is saying my Wisterias and Pogo.
No, wisteria and yeah, water sprite. Water sprite's a fabulous plant. What wisteria is too. Those are plants that are going to grow No matter what, they'll grow in the water, they'll grow out of the water, they will grow like weeds. You want to grow weeds. You want to start your plant by growing weeds. Growing stuff that's, put stuff in there that's going to go vroom, vroom, and just take off and fill the tank. You can always cut it back. You can always replace it. But give the tank a chance to get going, to get itself cranked up and in gear. You know, it's the way nature is. You look at a plot of dirt that's allowed to lie fallow. What happens? The weeds come in. What happens next? Bushes come in, trees come in. Doesn't happen all at once. It takes time. And you need to give your plant, your tank, that same kind of care and consideration. Give it a chance. You know, don't set up a brand new tank, your first tank, and you go out and you spend $200 buying the most exotic plants you can find, or for that matter, the most exotic fish. And you throw them in there, and you're so happy because you're brilliant. You know, you've got, and they're living, they're doing great. And then week 2 comes around, and you start finding dead fish and dead plants. Well, you set yourself up for failure to begin with. I had a couple in yesterday. Exact same situation. Brand new tank, never did a tank before. They got absolutely outrageously bad advice from their local fish store. An LFS, mind you. An LFS, a local fish store, gave them really bad advice. They wanted to set their tank up in water, softened water, with a thin layer of crushed coral, and buy the most exotic and fancy fish they could and stuff it with plastic plants and throw algicide in it. My God. I said to them, you know, we can fix this, but they're 5 weeks down the road. And they came in to buy discus. What's the water temperature? 78. They want to put discus in there. You know, they really do not have a clue. And the problem is that he is deferring to her, and her whole focus is on aesthetics. She wants it to look nice. She wants really interesting looking fish. She has a certain appearance she's going for, and there's no sense coming out of either one of them that this is a living environment. And so I told them at some point down the road, probably 2 to 3 months, everything is going to be dead. And they walked out and said, well, we're not going to do all this. We're not ready to do that yet. I tried to be nice. I tried to be gentle. I told them, get on the web, look at this, you know, check it out, go to my channel, listen to some videos, try to get a sense of what you're dealing with. They really do not have the first clue about what they're doing. They're simply throwing money at it. And they will continue. They're going to go back to that store. He's going to sell them a $500 piece of equipment to solve their problem, and then follow it up with another one. And that's going to go on until they give up. My rant for the day. Shall we put it in quotes?
There's one more thing. Sharpie's models made a good point at 836, saying that Buse also likes very soft water, but better to select plants suitable for your tank than try and chase the water parameters down. I'm guessing he meant, rather than changing the water parameters down for that plant.
Kaysen started with about 10 different kinds of plants. I don't recommend that. I recommend a variety, but only a little, because what's going to happen is 2/3 of them are not going to make it. Your tank's not going to be ready for them. There are a few that will make it, and that's what you want to stick with. Get those going, because they're gonna help to cycle the tank and get it stable, and create a an environment in which plants can grow. Uh, so while it's a good idea to start with a few different things, don't go crazy with it, and don't expect everything to live, because it's not gonna. Even in a dirted tank, not everything is going to survive day one, or not everything that you put in day one, if you got a wide variety, is going to survive. Some things will and some things won't. For those that don't, the tank's not ready yet. It takes time to get ready. It hasn't learned how to produce the elements, the nutrition that that particular plant needs, or the conditions in order for it to be able to survive. The tank has to become mature. As it becomes mature, it is able to support a wider variety of life. Think about it that way. Think about gardening. It's all about gardening. It's exactly the same as gardening. An organic gardener who works his soil year after year, that soil becomes richer and becomes able to support a wider variety of life. There are plants the gardener knows he can't grow yet because the soil is not ready. It's the identical condition in your tank. It's exactly the same. There is no difference. It is a living, growing earth environment. Give it time, give it a chance, let it develop, let it become what you want it to be. Don't try to throw everything at it and make it picture perfect day one, because day two, that picture will begin to blur. And by the time day five rolls around, you're going to be gasping for breath, and so will the fish. I need to take a little break.
All right. No
Let
problem.
me let me put a tune up here. Oh, let's do Cassie's song. I love Cassie's song.
Found my way, found my way out of here. He comes on in the morning every day. Add some soil, cap it with sand, then add land. He will help you do it the right way. Add some fish and walk away. Feed them high quality food. Thy food is best. Keep it dirty, keep it all natural. Found my way back to Father Fish. Bye, all.
Ever visit a place that was so different you just didn't want to leave? Step into the amazing world of Father Fish Aquarium. You'll be mesmerized by his exotic collection of saltwater and freshwater creatures, tanks and accessories, plus birds, lizards, turtles, and more. You'll never find another place like it on dry land. Father Fish Aquarium, 536 East Venice Avenue. You won't want to go home.
When I find myself in times of tank trouble, Father Fish, he comforts me. Speaking words of wisdom, let it be. And in my time of darkness, He is streaming right in front of me. Speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Let it be, let it be. Add some sand and let it be. Father's words of wisdom, let it be. When all the broken-hearted fishes living in the tank agree, there is an answer, let it be.
Oh, we're back. Let's see. You had
Fish, I'm
another
wearing a new
comment.
shirt today.
Yeah, let's see.
You want to see my shirt? This is the one I made.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, isn't that neat? What's it say? I can't read it. Oh,
It says, swim with the seahorses.
swim with the seahorses, and it has a dragon seahorse.
It has that, yeah, leafy.
The Australian, yeah, they're wonderful, amazing fish.
That's my artwork. I made it.
Did you really? Wow.
Yep.
Very, very nice. Very pretty.
I just, finished it yesterday.
Ha. We'll have to get you the.
I got it up though. I've got it up in Teespring, and I've ordered a sample shirt that's coming on Saturday. So I'll get to see how they do.
Oh, okay.
So if anyone's interested, I can put the link and you guys can check out what I've been doing this past week.
Yeah, do by all means.
There was a comment also by Tisha has.
By who? Tisha?
I think I'm accidentally playing something. Sorry. All right, at 8 o'clock, Tisha was asking, I'm planning next year to set up a 13-gallon.
Oh, right, saw that.
Is that me? Sorry, that's me. All right, I'm sorry. I'm planning next year to set up a 13-gallon and would like to have 4, my notes got cut off, 4 guppy males and 3 platy fish. Is this fine with mini corydoras, shrimp, and nerites?
It sounds good to me. Yeah, I like the selection. I think it's perfect.
I think you just need to be careful with like how many nerite snails you're going to add to any of your tanks. You know, you want them
Roman is mentioning Diana Wallstad's comment about the siesta. Again, she's doing that to control algae. And it does control algae. Yeah, she's not doing it as a recommended system for growing plants. She's using that in a rather specific context. It does control algae. It also will limit plant growth. Algae is, after all, a plant. No different, really, in its fundamental respects to any other plant. If you're reducing the photosynthetic period for algae, you're also reducing it for all the other plants in the tank. So just be conscious of the fact that when you make that kind of change, you're changing it for everything, not for, you're not putting the algae under the light and leaving the light on all the other plants. If there were a way to do that, that would be fine, but that's not what you're doing. Yeah, aquatic conquest. I've noticed nearly every secondhand tank on eBay comes with loads of chemicals for treating fish or the water. Isn't that interesting? And isn't it interesting that after spending all of that money on all of those chemicals and treatments and devices to keep their fish alive, they fail? Why is that, do you suppose? Folks, this is not a casual observation. This is, as best I am capable of waging it, open warfare on those who want to treat your tank as a chemical experiment, as a cauldron into which you you pour various and sundry elements in order to get it bubbling just right. This is serious stuff, and it's destroying the hobby for countless people because they're not being given the kind of advice that a gardener at a local garden shop would give their wannabe gardeners. You don't get that kind of crap from a garden shop. They don't try to sell you a $5,000 chemical injection system and then couple it with something else to denitrify and on and on and on. They don't treat gardens as though they're chemical experiments. They help you build your soil so it becomes a rich environment supportive of life, not a chemical experiment that burns off and kills everything. How many gardeners use algicide in their garden? Precisely zero. Why would you put a plant killer in a garden? Why would you do it? And why would you do it in a fish tank unless you don't want an environment where fish are able to thrive? And whatever gave you the idea that fish could live without plants? Where did that piece of brilliance come from? I mean, really,
The chiclet
it's
people.
time to get serious. It's time to get serious with people who are being abused into spending vast amounts of money on a hobby that's going to result in their failure, because it will. They will fail. At a given point in time, 99% will fail. The other 1% will figure out they don't need all that crap, and they'll start figuring out on their own how to do it, or maybe luck out and find somebody like James or Alex or myself or any of a number of other people on YouTube who are doing it properly and correctly. I'm sorry, I'm getting agitated. There's a lot going on right now that agitates me. Some of it's affecting all of us. Some of it's just affecting me. But it's cumulative. And it's causing me to become somewhat irascible. And I don't like myself doing that particularly, because it upsets people. Because when I get upset, I transfer the upset, and other people get upset. It's just not a good way to proceed. So,
But we'll try
my
to switch it.
apologies. If I'm
But you have
losing
a valid
control,
point.
I apologize.
And it's
Let me,
okay, and we like it a little bit because you have a valid point about the gardeners and gardening centers. You know, they're trying to help their fellow gardeners, and I think you make a valid point, and it's understandable why you would be upset about that.
thank you.
Just with the way the industry is going, with the lack of information, all the confusion, you know, it's like you don't know what to believe really. And we're just we're here seeking your advice, you know, because we found you, Father Fish, and we think you've got the knowledge that we're seeking.
Well, and you know, I'm not wanting to be playing God either. I mean, I don't hold out the notion that my way is the only way. I mean, there are people here on the web who are doing things in YouTube. Who are doing things very differently from the way I do them, and they're being very successful, and that's fine. I respect that. You know, I'm mostly and primarily interested in people who are having problems and people who are starting out. You know, if you're down the road, I don't have much to teach you. I got a lot more to learn from you because you're doing things I haven't figured out yet. I mean, every one of us, as we move forward with this hobby, we figure things out, and we develop systems that are very much our own. And that's what we like to share. And we do share. I mean, somebody 50 years down the road sharing with somebody who's been at it for 5 or 10 years still has a lot to learn because that person has developed techniques and approaches and systems and ways of doing things that have come out of their own experience and that are valuable information for anyone else on that same path, regardless how far down the path they are. So, you know, it's not a matter of having a lock on the truth. It is a matter of knowing that there are basic things that work and there are things that don't work. And there's too much going on in the hobby that doesn't work for new people getting into it. Way too much. There are too many products being pumped out the door from big box stores and local fish stores alike that have no bearing on maintaining a healthy aquarium. They're simply a way to make money. And that's not fair, particularly when you're dealing with people who are trying to do something new that they really don't understand. It's not fair. And part of the problem is that the people doing the selling don't understand any better either. You know, I don't think they're deliberately malicious people, deliberately abusive, and are trying to make people fail. I don't think that at all. I think they just don't know. I mean, the perfect example is this couple that just came in that bought a 150-gallon tank, brand new, with everything. They've spent upwards of $5,000 in 5 weeks, and they've got a crapshoot, and they've got something that's going to crash at some point in time in the not too distant future. It's going to crash, and they're going to wind up calling me and asking me if I will buy their system, and I'll offer them 1/10 of what they paid for it, and they'll put it online and won't get a better offer. You know, it's tragic. It's really tragic, and it just happens too often. Frank, okay, thank you, Frank. Frank is leaving us. Take care. Be safe. I need hot coffee.
Mine got cold.
John McKenzie. Thank you, John. I don't think it's fair to lump every LFS together on ripping people off. And I'm not. I'm not. There's a big confusion between novice and advanced aquarists keeping difficult plants and needing to maximize everything. Absolutely, Alexander. I'm not knocking every LFS. I am an LFS, for God's sake. I'm not knocking myself. I have friends who have local fish stores who do things very differently from me, and I have respect for them, and I am supportive of them. I've got one here in my own community. I keep trying to convince him to do a dirted tank every time we get together. I tease him about it. He does gravel. That's all he does is gravel. But he has a really sweet shop. He's very good to his customers. He's not trying to push products out the door. He does have a wider line of products that I do because he needs it to maintain gravel tanks. And he has customers going between his store and mine. And some of them choose to deal with him, and some of them choose to deal with me, and some of them deal with both of us. But we love each other, and we are supportive of each other. We buy products from each other. We work together on projects. We're friends. I'm not putting down every LFS. But I am putting down those big box stores and LFS stores that believe their sole responsibility is to make as much money as they possibly can, as quickly and easily as they possibly can. And I think that stinks. Thank you, Fish Dreams, for the super sticker. Very much appreciated. You gotta
Yes, thank you.
keep it up. Keep it up, plumbing boxing gloves. Oh, and weights. I need to be in weights. I need to be loose in weights.
I apologize. I'm in top chat.
Yeah, just yeah, I am too, actually.
What have I missed?
I don't know.
There's been so much going on. I didn't think I was missing anything.
Yeah,
People
frankly, yeah, go ahead.
and they just think you're being passionate. You're not. I don't think you're making.
I'm being
Hopefully.
mean. Oh dear. Give us a bell, Father Fish. Yes. Add sand.
Yeah, and I don't think all local fish stores are bad. Someone was commenting, just everybody's different. You might get good advice from yours and you may not.
Well, it's like the couple I was talking about. I didn't throw them out and say don't come back. I suggested to them they educate themselves a little bit, learn more about what they're into. And my parting words were I'm happy to work with you to help you get your tank where you want it to be.
Yeah, and it's no different than a puppy or a kitten. You got to know what you're getting into before you go ahead and decide you're going to own whatever. You got to do your research. Just
Right.
hope you're good information, though, when you do your research.
Oh.
Well, who was it? Has a question. Also, one question in Rohan.
What is it?
Would you like to answer Word
Yeah,
Dunlap's
sure.
question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Do plants and animals sequester carbon and compounds while growing? Does removing plants and other organisms?
Well, we know that plants do. because that's where carbon comes from. They sequester. Yeah, that we know they do. Um, you burn wood and you get carbon. Um, Animals less so, but there's a certain amount. Uh, bone and sinew and scales and so forth. So yeah, I'm not sure where the question's coming from.
At what time are you asking? That was at
Oh,
8:30.
right. Yeah, Alishan is mentioning um, the um, the presentation that was made last night. I got there early and I had to go to bed. I couldn't. It was the Bucks County Aquarium Society, which is a great old society. Excuse me. It was a program on planted tanks, and Alishan is saying that some father fish posters were present. Some of you guys were there. Great club, great club. And I know of the presenter. Haven't met him, but I'm sure it was a really excellent program. That there we need to be doing more of that. That's really what I ought to be doing for our club. Is doing online stuff. We have great speakers. Have had. We haven't been able to meet all year. Unfortunately, I voted myself out of office, so I don't have any official capacity in the club. Um, well, that may need to change. I don't know. We'll see, because we haven't met now for nearly a year, and we're probably not going to get back together until January. So I'm thinking we're going to need to make some rather fundamental changes. I may suggest coming on as a media coordinator or something to try to get us kind of back in gear and be reaching out to a wider community. It's a good club, and it's going to need a lot of help after not meeting for a year. What else we got here?
We got one dirty platy. Father fish as well. In theory, as the detritus moves down through the sand, would it increase the amount of soil / dirt below over much time, of course?
I'm sorry, I was doing that. I missed the end of that question.
We just wanted to know, as the detritus moves down through the sand, would it increase the amount of soil or dirt below?
Yes.
Over time, of course.
Well, it does and it doesn't. Obviously, it does if you're starting with like a pure sand bed. What it does is when it hits that anaerobic layer about 2 inches below the sand, it begins to break down. It begins to deteriorate, essentially biologically into, and then chemically into uh, minerals and other elements that can be taken up by the plants. That's the point where the plants are able to derive nutrition from essentially rotting material. The point at which it becomes stable in a more elemental form, which the plants are then able to take in through their roots and use to grow cell structure, to grow leaves and so forth. So in the process of doing that, the dirt, if you will, the detritus that's gone down into it is in fact converted into plant matter. And that give you a good example of this that's easier to understand. is the Amazon jungle. The Amazon jungle has virtually no nutrition in its soil because it is about as quick as it hits the dirt and gets down in there and breaks down, it's taken up. The demand for nutrition is so intense that it doesn't stay in the soil as a pooling source. It's absorbed as soon as it's ready. And so there is no excess nutrition in the soil in the Amazon jungle. It's all in the trees. That's what the forest is. It's what the jungle is. It's what all the plant material is. The plant material is the life force. It is virtually 100% of the nutrition that's available in that entire system. Now, in a brand new tank that does not have a deep substrate, that's what you're dealing with. You're dealing with a system that has very, very, very limited nutrition that's moving down in the soil, breaking down. Now, as it goes in, the roots are able, even if they're shallow roots, roots create an anaerobic layer around themselves that breaks down waste. So that begins to happen right away. It doesn't have to go all the way into the bottom. What you're creating all the way into the bottom is a reservoir. That's the function of the dirt, and ultimately a function of the nutrition as it seeps down into the bottom. It creates a reservoir that plants can thrive on. But in the beginning, those plants are taking nutrition wherever they can find it, and they're sending roots out everywhere looking for it, and they'll create some anaerobics around that little tiny hair root. They'll break down that waste and absorb it. It happens microscopically. It happens. And it happens very quickly. So you can plant plants in plain sand and feed your fish. Again, don't go crazy feeding your fish. Feed your fish. The waste from that and the waste from dying plants is an important part of that. Don't take out your dead plants when they die. Leave them in there. Let them deteriorate. They're not going to rot and kill the fish. They're part of the system that needs to build up. They need to deteriorate in order to be available, and they'll be available very quickly to other plants as nutrition. I never said that before. That's really important. Do not take out your dead plants. Leave them in there. Let them die. Let them, let them, you can cap it with a little sand or something. If it's totally unsightly, siphon some of it out. If you have an overflow filter, put it in that and let the water flow through it uh, to try to capture some of that nutrition as the plants deteriorate. But deteriorating plants are the key to plant growth. Lee got it. Ah,
I was just reading Sharpie's Models and Aquatics comment. I think he was talking about his cat. He says, mine was on my lap when he went. One last purr goodbye. Then the next thing I know, I hear the bell on his catnip toy ringing. The toy that's his forever pillow. I'm not sure before that. I think he was just talking in general about his cat in the last moment with him.
Oh, yeah,
Sounds very sweet, and I think it's something Mary would have brought up if she was on here today.
yeah. I heard Tom did the same thing. He kind of let out the last gasp.
Well, it sounds like he passed away, and then he heard the bell.
It sounds like it, doesn't it? Yeah.
That sounds pretty neat. That's special. It happens, lights flicker, and you hear little things. Rohan was asking at 8:36, can I use iodized salt for hatching brine shrimp?
Yeah, you can. You can use about anything to hatch brine shrimp.
Okay.
And they probably will grow in it. Iodine is a trace element that's critical for life in saltwater systems. And there's no more than a trace of it in iodized salt. So it's not going to be a problem. I would not set up. Well, here, let me back up a little bit. We've been experimenting, now that we're into the salt thing, we've been experimenting with evaporated salt, natural sea salt, salt that's evaporated out of the sea and used as water softener salt. We set up a system with that, a 400-gallon system. We had trouble initially because there was a leak in the system and the automatic top off was bringing RO water in. So we wound up losing solidity. We finally got that fixed, stabilized it, stabilized the salt, and it's been going now for about a month. And it is supporting life at a minimal level. I just we put a few fish in it. Some survived, some didn't. I put some turbo snails in it. They all died. So I'm rapidly coming to the conclusion that there is something else in that salt that they claim is pure salt, that is not salt, that is some kind of toxin, probably an antibacterial agent, something to I don't know what. There's something else in there that is that's a toxin, yeah. And antifungal. I mean, who knows what it is? But the experiment is about to come to an end. I'm getting an order of salt in next week. We're going to break that tank down and replace it with the real stuff. Replace it with certified aquarium salt of the sort that is used to set up saltwater fish tanks. So unfortunately, that test was a bust.
Could you contact the company and ask them, what their ingredients are that you don't think they've?
Well, here's the problem. The problem is that they're not going to tell me because it's a trace element that they're not required by law to report because it's below a certain level. So I'm not going to learn anything. If I could acquire sea salt directly from a processing plant, that might be one thing. And that's probably, in fact, what the manufacturers are doing. He's back.
How's it going?
You want to give us a report?
I buffed the cabinet.
You buffed the cabinet.
They said, when are you coming back? I said, Friday.
Friday,
They said, what are you doing? I said, plumbing.
Okay.
And they said, when are you coming back after that? Or no, sorry, Wednesday. I'm coming back next Wednesday. Plumbing next Wednesday. They want to know if we can put water in on Friday. I said we'll talk about it on Wednesday.
Probably.
Like you
Yeah,
said, they
if
want
we
to
can
start.
get the plumbing right.
Yeah,
and set.
yeah.
We
Well, I'm
probably
giving
can.
myself an hour on Wednesday to do plumbing
Who
and
asked you
electrical.
those questions?
The doc isn't there. He's in Port Charlotte today, so it was his
Just
assistant.
as well. How's the cabinet look?
Nice. I went
Good.
way overboard on how much product I should have used, so it came off with a really nice finish, and I actually dyed all of the scratches. That was my goal. And then I spent probably half my time cleaning it back to dry. So I took the edge of my shirt and I went around it to make sure
Oh my
I don't
word.
have any stain on it. Do you see any stain?
No, it's clean.
So I guess I did okay. That was the goal. All the ladies in there were very, very nice. They're all interested in when the clownfish are going to be swimming around. So
yeah, that'll be first.
yeah, that's what everyone just wants, clownfish, I guess,
Yeah,
and a
yeah.
dory.
Well, Dory is the hardest fish to keep.
I know, and I didn't want to like start going down that road with these people about tangs. I was just like, yeah, tangs are
We'll do yellow. We can go
they're
yellow.
interesting.
We'll do sailfin. They're easier.
Oh, you know this guy. They want dory.
Oh, I know what he
They
wants.
can do it. I mean, they can support it
If
in
we
that
can
tank.
get it stable,
2 clownfish in 1 powder blue tank.
we're going to start for the first 2 weeks with clowns. And we'll put more into it. We'll put a half a dozen.
All right.
Okay, 2 weeks. And then we'll talk about what's next.
Yeah.
Next will be invertebrates.
Well, and that's what they didn't. Nobody asked about coral. Nobody asked about rocks. Everyone asked when are the clownfish.
I know. You know what? Well,
we'll
we'll talk about it in a bit. Let me finish up here.
Absolutely.
Good. I'm glad it went well.
Do you want? Is there anything for breakfast you might want? I haven't eaten.
There
yet,
is
so
nothing.
I'll
Yeah, you want to go get some food? I don't know if I have any money.
Oh, I got mine. You don't want anything though?
Yeah, sure.
Are you,
I don't care. Some kind of anything.
We're almost to 9:30, Father Fish. I think you're getting antsy.
Yeah, I see that. 9:22. We're getting there. All right. What else is going on in this conversation?
Well, we had one comment about feeding from Sharpie's Models and Aquatics. He says, I don't feed my crib fry while they're in the farm tank because there's plenty of natural food for them. It's only when they go to the grow out tub that he starts feeding them.
Yeah, so long as it's plenty. Very often it's not plenty, I've noticed. You know, you just have to make sure they really do have enough. If you can develop, get a microworm culture going. I happen to have one here. I don't know if you can see this. See the sides? Those, if I had, I don't know if I can fix it. I'm gonna mess things up. Yeah, if I could get it in focus, which I don't think I can.
Yeah, it might be hard. Not all cameras can focus that close.
Yeah, what you would see is little tiny worms coming up the side, and that's using a little paintbrush. You can use your finger. I use a paintbrush there. That's not bad. You can kind of see them.
Mm-hmm.
Those are nematodes. It's a very, very tiny nematode that most baby fish can take. It's not too big. It is extremely tiny. If you can get a culture of this going, you have to renew it every couple of weeks. It doesn't hold up real well. It's a yeast base. So you have to create a new one about every 2 weeks. But you can see this is pretty good culture. It's got a lot of worms on it that are coming up the side. So use a little kitty paintbrush and take those off and feed them. It's a good supplement because it's going to live in the water. It's not going to foul anything. Well, now I'm real bad at it.
Did you order those or
Did what?
Did you buy those from somewhere?
Would I do what?
Did you buy those from somewhere?
Yeah, I guess my supplier brought them. One of my suppliers. It's an easy enough culture to transport, and I could ship that out. I apologize for the lack of shipping going on here. I don't have a system in place for shipping, and so things are languishing. I was supposed to get mugs out Monday. Today's Friday. They're not out. I put it off now until next Monday. The problem right now is I have to do it myself, and I simply never catch up to it to do it. You know, it takes a couple of hours. I have to wrap everything, box it all, take it to the post office. I'm not using post office anymore. Take it to one of the carriers and get it out. And it's a half a day for me to do that. And I haven't been able to grab half a day to do it. So I apologize. I need to get probably what I'll do is get Frank on it. Frank will do it. He'll spend a whole day doing it, but it'll be done perfectly and brilliantly. That's as focused as I can get. It's a lousy picture anyway. Anyway, let's see.
Fish Dreams was asking, what can I use to cap my sand bed to keep the cories and pandagar from kicking it up onto my plants? She would like a suggestion.
What's happening?
Fish
The
Dreams is
cories
having
are picking up sand and deposit. I don't get this. Try me again. Where is
She
the
says
comment?
at 9:07.
Way back.
Yeah, this is way back, a little bit ago. I think she's just having an issue with her fish. They're stirring up the sand a bit too much, and she'd like to cap it.
Yeah, mine won't go back that far.
I'm having that issue with my goldfish.
I like using the river gravel, the small little river gravel pebbles. They look really nice, and you can put a layer of those down on the sand. I was showing that to a customer yesterday that did not like the look of the sand, and I grabbed a handful of these little tiny pebbles and made a little bed in the front of one of the tanks. It looks really nice. That would work. It's going to keep your cories from being able to feed, though. They're not going to have as easy a time of it. I don't think cories are going to pick sand up and deposit it on plants. Something else is doing that. If you have a geophagus in there, that could well be. Pardon?
She also has a pandagar, she said.
A pandagara?
Oh, Gara. Yeah, sorry.
No, I don't think a pandagara would do it either. Is there a geophagus in there?
I don't know. Those were the two fish.
Some other kind of cichlid. There's cichlids that'll do it.
I mean, goldfish for sure are messy.
Goldfish will do it, yeah. I don't think catfish are not going to do it. Cories are not going to do it. Yeah, I don't understand what the problem is. Picking up sand and dropping it, or is something burying the plants? I mean, how serious is this? Is the sand bed being substantially disrupted and deposited in a mound? If so, you got a fish in there big enough to be able to disrupt things.
Mm-hmm.
A cory is not going to do that. Try to figure out what's causing it. You got somebody in there who's probably digging early in the morning, nest building.
Yeah, my cories don't do it, but my goldfish goes to town on the sand.
Yeah, they will. That's true.
And like it's very low in the front right now because that's where my goldfish likes to go and sift for food, and then he spits it out everywhere, all over the Anubias.
How can I say this gently?
To who? To me or Fish Dreams?
Anybody listening.
Hang on, Father Fish. Let me get my big pants on.
Really. Anyone who's raised children, Cass, you're certainly chief among them, knows that it's impossible to keep everything perfectly neat and orderly, particularly if you've got 2-year-olds running around,
Or
or
any
3,
kid.
4, 5, and 6-year-olds
10.
being kids, you know. Yeah, and fish are the same way. They create messes, and you just kind of need to accommodate that. If you keep trying to correct them, you're going to fail. And if you try to remove that which they're missing, you may be removing things they really need. So, let your tank be a little messy. Doesn't have to be a lot messy, just a little messy. Just kind of, relinquish a little territory, and everybody will be happier, especially you. If you can give up on trying to train your fish to be meticulous in their eating habits and whatever, then it'll make you a lot happier, because fish are very stubborn creatures, and they do not. The only thing they learn to do really well is eat. They learn to do that really well, and they'll come right to you if they think you're going to feed them. You can train them to do that. Beyond that, there ain't a lot you can do in terms of training a fish. There are some, like some of the big Oscars, are trained to play, and there are fish that will play with balls or ping pongs or whatever. Allow you to pet them, come up and wiggle in your hand. I've seen lots of all that kind of stuff. So they're fun things you can do with larger fish. With a little fish, man, they just want to do their thing, and they're going to do it their way. They're not going to do it your way. So learn from it. Enjoy it, appreciate it. And I guess we're done for the day. Are we done for the day?
Husbands too. It's not just kids. It's husbands too.
Husbands too. There you go.
I think men, guys.
Really?
I think men in general. Guys,
Oh, mercy.
Yeah, I think we're about done. If anybody else has comments, you can always leave them down later, and I sometimes go back to the stream and check for comments.
Yeah, I noticed yesterday the stream did not come up as a video until late in the evening. It was spending all that time processing. So I don't know what happened at YouTube, but it took all day for it to process. I'm going to play Here Fishy. I love this. This is so cool. All right, my beloved friends. Wonderful to be with you. Thank you all for plugging in.
Thank you, guys.
And we will see you all on tomorrow.
Mary is still waiting for lab.
Did she say?
What did she say?
You got a report from her?
She asked everybody to hit that like. I don't know what the likes are right now.
All right, praying for you, Mary.
Yeah, she's trying to get lab result or get blood work done.
Can you hear the music?
Yep, I can hear it. It's a little soft, but
I've got it tuned down here. Bye, everybody. Love you all.
Bye, guys. Have a good day.
Wow.
We all love all the fish, great life stream.
plants they are so clean, the plants they are so green. We all love his fluffy beard and it's so white. He always keeps it tight. His eyes are so bright. As we live the life fishy. Everyone!
Hello, Mary. Mary, try and sort this one out. Let's talk about fish, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be. Let's talk about fish. Let's talk about fish, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that can be. Let's talk about fish. Fish. Let's talk about fish. Let's talk about fish. Instrumental break. Let's talk about fish, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be. Let's talk about fish. Let's talk about fish. 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 Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be. Let's talk about fish. Let's talk about fish. Fish. I'll take that one.